Say your name this far.
Right, okay, got it.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone to the Township Council Workshop, Monday, September 17, 2018. This meeting is now called to order. Mr. May, would you be gracious enough to lead us in the American flag?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Kraus, can you please read the statement of public notice?
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. A notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on April 27, 2018. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date.
Mrs. Kraus, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cordner?
Present.
Councilmember Lees?
Here.
Councilmember Sieber,
Present.
Councilmember Vanchieri?
Present.
Council President Scoba.
Present. Mayor Damiano?
Thank you, Council President. So this evening, we have something on our agenda that has been deferred for a period of time through no fault of anyone in particular, only that it seems that a series of events came up where we were unable to award these next two individuals with an award several months ago. I know originally when we had this planned, the evening where we had the two individuals who I will call up in just a minute, they were responding to another incident on a highway after an accident, and they were unable to make it that evening. But this evening we are fortunate enough to have everyone here in attendance, and I am going to ask both Artie Savage and Brian Mistretti to join me up here for this short award ceremony. And Chief, if you would be kind enough to join us up here. So for those of you who don't know the story, Artie and Brian were performing their regular duties through the municipality on March 1st, 2018. A regular day to them where they were going about town, performing again their regular duties. And as they were driving past 26 Riverview Circle, they noticed smoke coming from a house at that location. And it is through their incredible and quick action that an individual was saved that evening, or really during that day. So I'm going to present them with the Meritorious Service Award. And it's awarded for the actions taken on March 1st, 2018 at a house fire located at 26 Riverview Circle, Little Falls, New Jersey, for a highly unusual accomplishment under adverse conditions with some degree of hazard to life and limb to the nominee or where death or injury to a third party is prevented. And it is today, finally, after several months, that I'm able to present the two of you with this award that has been very well deserving. And without the two of your very quick actions that day, this individual that was located in that home may not be alive today. So I know and in speaking to her over time, we absolutely thank you for everything that you do, and especially for your very quick action that day. So first, allow me to present you with your award. And we have for you Meritorious Service Award pins for you. Congratulations, guys.
Good evening, everyone. As the mayor presented, I thank the mayor for his efforts and support continuously, along with council, to the fire department on a daily basis. Tonight's presentation, as everyone knows, is a life-saving award for Captain Brian Mastretti and firefighter Art Savage. The date of the incident, March 1st, 14:21 hours. While working in the DPW capacity of the Township of Little Falls, Captain Brian Mastretti, firefighter Art Savage were on Riverview Circle when they both observed fire and smoke coming from a residence on Riverview Circle. Brian and Artie approached the home, knocked on the door, and made entry to find Susan Ashmore asleep in a reclining chair in the living room located on the first floor of the residence. At this time, she was removed safely from the structure by both firefighters for observation as she was turned over to the Little Falls EMS, and not before Brian and firefighter Savage were advised by Susan her son Bobby was still in the home. At this time, firefighter Savage conducted a search of the first floor, smoke-filled second floor of the home in an attempt to locate additional occupants. No other occupants were located in the home. This time is when fire department arrived on location, went to work extinguishing the fire, which was under control at 15:06 hours. If it wasn't for the quick actions of both Captain Mastretti and Art Savage, the outcome would have been much different. Captain Brian Mastretti has 20 years in the fire service, including 8 years as an EMT, serves as the current captain of Rescue 1. Firefighter Art Savage has over 30 years with Engine Company 3. We are very fortunate to have our employees as firefighters serving our community at the sound of the tone and the horn for any and all emergencies. On behalf of the officers, firefighters, and EMTs of the Little Falls Fire Department, I present to both of you these life-saving achievement awards for saving the life of Susan Ashmore on March 1st, 2018 at the scene of a residential structure fire at 14:21 hours. You can give each other a hand. All right. I'll continue. For this award program, tonight, Susan Ashmore, her son Bobby, are unable to attend for medical reasons not related to this incident, and sends many thanks to these guys. In speaking to a family member just earlier today, both are looking to be with us at our December department meeting to meet back up with Captain Mastretti and Arthur Savage to give her thanks in person. At this time, I'd like to thank Mayor Damiano and Township Council, along with Business Administrator Chuck Cuccia, for your continued support of Little Falls Fire Department and EMS in providing the equipment, tools, and opportunities in moving our department into the future. Special thank you to Steve Post, Chief of the Police Department, and his staff for their efforts daily in assisting the fire department. Hey, he's making out, right? He's in a lot of trouble. I'd like to thank Brian, Captain Mastretti, firefighter Arthur Savage, both of you for your efforts that day. And as a special note I touched on earlier in my speech, I am very proud to serve our community with employees who started as members of the Little Falls Fire Department as firefighters and EMTs and have continued to be a valuable asset to our community in many other capacities in police department, DPW, building department. Please continue to serve and stay safe. A copy of this narrative presentation will be added to their personnel files for the record. Once again, thank you for being here with us this evening in honoring both Captain Mastretti and firefighter Arthur Savage on behalf of the members of the Little Falls Fire Department. Congratulations.
send it. Alex.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I have a motion and a second to open to public comment for general matters only?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President.
The floor is open.
All right.
Please state your name and address.
Sure. Tricia Toomey, 139 Wilmore Road,
Good evening.
Little Falls. I just wanted to come up and let everybody know that we were selected for the Big Dig program for Passaic County to receive 500 daffodil bulbs.
I'm sorry, how many bulbs were that?
500. We'll be planting in 3 locations. We've got the raised bed closest to Main Street in Memorial Park, and we have the raised bed in front of the snack shack by the rec center and under the small sign in that same location. We're going to work with the Little Falls ABC and the Girl Scouts and possibly the Boy Scouts, and we'll get those planted before November 30th, and hopefully they will be blooming when we have opening day and maybe when we have our Memorial Day parade. So.
We thank you for your great effort in that, to making our town look very pretty. Is there any assistance you need from this governing board?
No, I think, we'll pick a date, and then maybe we can put it on the email, and if anybody wants to come out and help, we'd be more than happy to have them.
Thank you for your time and effort. The floor is still open. Nothing, Mr. Fernandez?
Do I have a big mouth?
Just asking. Seeing no one else come forward, can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Before we ask for a motion in a second, Mayor, this comes before our desk about the excavator again, and a little puzzling why we have to see it again. Was there a change to this piece of equipment? What was the reason that we're seeing this again this evening?
Sure, Council President. So as you're aware, this has to do with the track hoe that is being purchased between the municipality of Little Falls and the Borough of Woodland Park. The Borough of Woodland Park and their administration there is the lead agency in securing this and obtaining this grant for us. They have asked for a modification, which we've all agreed to, a modification to the scope of the grant, which I've discussed in the past, but now it is here before you for actual approval. Woodland Park is simultaneously, and by that I mean this month, approving a similar resolution for the modification to the grant, which includes the ability for this track hoe to be utilized not only in the Passaic and Peckman rivers themselves, but also with any and all of the contributaries that contribute to those rivers. That was something that would have, by the language, been prohibited by the grant in its original form. So we are looking to modify the scope so that we can utilize this track hoe in all of the contributaries as well as the rivers themselves. This, we believe, is also part of the obviously contributing factors as to the flooding and some of the work that may need to be done. We didn't want to be handcuffed and not be permitted to use this machine in those contributaries, and that's what this resolution here is doing, is approving this modification so that the administration there can move forward with seeking that modification through the grant.
Do the council have any questions to the mayor regarding Resolution A?
I just have a question.
Yes, Councilwoman Gardner.
Do you have any idea of timing of when the grant could possibly get approved and then how long it would take to actually get the equipment?
The grant itself has already been approved.
Okay.
What this resolution does here is, we're looking again to modify the scope of what the machine can be used for, and so that we can receive the reimbursement for it.
Okay.
I have one further question concerning this, Mayor. I know probably Mrs. O'Hare will ask it. Where is this piece of equipment going to be stored?
And just for clarification, as is common with most grants, and so that everybody is clear, it is a reimbursement grant. So we do need to purchase the Traco first, perform the work, and at the end of that, we then are reimbursed for the Traco and the work that is performed and obtained.
Mayor, again, the question was, when this piece of equipment finally gets to our township, and this is being shared with Woodland Park, is that not correct? Where would this equipment be stored? Do we know?
Yes, this piece of machinery is being stored in the Little Falls DPW yard. There's a structure there where it will be housed, and again, can used only for purposes pertaining to the rivers.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one piece of clarification.
Councilwoman
So
Sieber?
when we seek for reimbursement, is that reimbursement of work hours, or is that reimbursement towards the cost of the excavator?
Yeah, here's the more administrative side.
So the way this grant works is that we requested an entire project of cost, about $350,000. The grant was for $150,000. We had already spent around $20,000 or $25,000 on engineering, at which time everyone decided that having someone contract to do the work was not the best thing for us to do, which is why we have the amendment to the grant to purchase the Traco. We still have to do the work, remove all the shoals and whatnot, and we have to pay for that. So sometime next year, you're going to see an ordinance that funds our portion of that part of the process. Once all that work is done, once that entire project is done, then we can ask for reimbursement of the $150,000, which is the portion of the project which is funded by the grant. That's the only portion funded by the grant. The rest of it is funded half from Woodland Park, half from us.
Was your
Yeah.
question answered, Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions on behalf of the council? Can I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution A?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mrs. Kraus?
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Lees?
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Mayor Damiano, Mr. Kusha, would you like to please discuss the following items, 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Thank you, Council President. The tax refund resolutions, for clarification, most of the tax refund resolutions that you are seeing this month are not from tax appeals or the like. Most of these this month are from FEMA acquisitions. And because people generally prepay their property taxes as they pay their monthly mortgages, if a house was purchased before that entire escrow amount was utilized, the reimbursement for the remainder of the month is sent back to the prior homeowner, and that is why we have a number of tax refund resolutions up this month.
Does seem like quite a few.
Yeah, and most of these are, almost all of these are due to FEMA acquisitions.
Mr. Fernandez? Number 2, Mr. Mayor?
So there are, the total amounts range from $1,959 through $540, well, there's one of $61. There's a total of $8,142 as the total refund.
Number 2, Mr. Mayor?
Number 2, resolution awarding contract for the library door replacement. This was a community development block grant that the municipality applied for some time ago. A grant was awarded in the amount of $25,000 to replace the doors and the with actuators so that they are ADA accessible at the library. We recently went out to bid for that project. The lowest bidder came back at around $18,000 and change. We are going to be looking to award the contract to replace those doors, and again, funded by the grant, all of which should be covered absent any unforeseen circumstances.
So those are the automatic doors when you enter our library that open?
Correct.
Any anticipated time when this project will be completed?
Once the grant is, or once the bid is awarded, I guess we'd have to coordinate with the vendor to have them installed. So at this time, I don't know the exact timeline. Phil, do you have any? We don't have any exact timeline yet because they don't know that they've been awarded the grant yet. So until that time, no scheduling has occurred.
Number 3, Mr. Mayor.
The third one is the proposed bond ordinance for the acquisition of Stanley Street property. As has been discussed in the past, one of the major issues in the municipality is the parking in our downtown area. As we've discussed also in the past, there have been a couple of properties that are adjoining our downtown area that have become available. And rather than move forward with the potential for parking garages or the like, it seems to be more cost-effective to move forward with ground parking and surface parking in our downtown area, which may enhance our downtown parking and convenience for our residents and for anyone who comes to this town to either shop, dine, or the like. And this is a bond ordinance for the acquisition of a property right there on that street, essentially abutting our downtown area.
And number 4, Mr. Mayor.
And the fourth one is the proposed bond ordinance amending bond ordinance 1326. And as we do in the beginning of the calendar years, as we are setting the budget and our entire bond amounts for the ordinances, we are always working based upon estimates earlier in the year. And in doing that, we assign what we believe would be the reasonable amount for vehicles, for acquisition of other machinery and equipment. And this one in particular is a modification because it turns out we had originally anticipated more money being spent on vehicles this year, and the costs weren't as high as originally anticipated. And we had expected to spend a little bit less money on the above-ground fuel tank that we are going to have installed at the DPW yard, which ended up costing a little bit more money than was originally anticipated. So to cover all of those costs, this is more so juggling money around between what they were originally anticipated to be used for and what they will actually be used for. We are not adding any funding for the purchase of anything. This is simply moving money essentially from one account to another, for lack of a better explanation.
Does the council have any questions or concerns regarding 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Just a question or a point of notice that I think we're actually, point 4 is actually bond ordinance 1336, not 1326.
No.
No. Oh, thank, right.
Right.
Right, we're going to
Okay.
amend it with 1337.
13, thank you.
You okay?
Yep.
Are there any other questions, concerns from the council regarding 1, 2, 3, and 4? Councilman Vanchery.
Okay. Sure, I just have a couple items. First, last Tuesday, we held our annual 9/11 ceremony at the Wilmore Road Park. I just wanted to thank everyone who helped make the event once again a success, and also thank all the residents that came out on a hot night, but it was a great time to be there to honor those that passed away 17 years ago. It was also great to see the Cordice family, including FDNY firefighter Robert Cordice's mother, and along with some of his cousins that were there, just so that we can remember Robert and the sacrifice that he made 17 years ago. And again, I just want to thank everyone for being there to honor those that were lost. In terms of some transportation committee updates, so recently Corporal Mancato and I met with our State County traffic engineer contact, just to discuss some outstanding items that we have been waiting for throughout the summer. One in particular was the possibility of a street light over on Wilmore, Cedar Grove Road, and Francisco. Based on our discussions, what Corporal Mancato has been working on now is to do some traffic studies just to capture some data that's required by the county in order to submit through the freeholders for the process of actually consideration of a traffic light. So Corporal Mancato is pulling together the data that's required, and we're hoping to get that to the county by the end of this month, if not early October, so that we can get the ball rolling and hopefully have this as an agenda item for the county when they have their meetings. So that's something to keep in mind, because we know it's been an issue from a traffic standpoint in that area. Now, a couple other things that we did do as we were meeting with our traffic engineer was we made an adjustment. We worked with the mayor and also DPW Director Phil Simone. One of the complaints that we've gotten from a lot of residents is over on Stevens and Main when it comes to no turn on red. Now, the sign is actually located across the street in front of Pencil Works, high up above where the light is, and there was not a no turn on red sign actually at the line of stop on Stevens Avenue. So after talking to the county traffic engineer who informed us that technically the sign that we did have was secondary, we needed a primary, we were able now to put that sign properly where it belongs. And the one thing too that Chief Post and his staff has been working on is monitoring that area, because every now and then people tend to not pay attention to that no turn on red sign and just decide to turn. So we're trying to, calm that area down so that cars respect what the ordinance is in place there. A couple other things too in our discussions with the county was on Union Ave. When you're coming through, say if you come off Riverview Drive or if you're driving up Union Boulevard from Totowa, the traffic lines that were originally in place for whether or not you were making a left onto Main Street or a right onto Main Street have faded. So the county has let us know that in early November, they will come out and touch up all of their county road specific lines that need to be adjusted. So that's something that's going to be addressed in a couple months. That's when they do it every year in November. So we've asked to make sure that Union was addressed along with some other streets, including Wilmore, that the lines are starting to fade. Lastly, just on some of my transportation committee discussions, because we're actually meeting this Thursday here at 7 o'clock. A number of residents, whether it's through the committee, social media, reaching out to fellow members of the council, or even the mayor, have talked about the idea of speed bumps or speed humps on several streets. We've heard it from residents that have come here from Houston as well as Jacobus. And we've had some time to talk to some of the residents, and what I'd like to do from a committee standpoint is share with the mayor and council in an upcoming meeting is just some of our thoughts and recommendations about considering the idea of speed humps on certain streets. Look, at the end of the day, we're not going to do every street, but if we do know there is a high volume of traffic and there is a need from the residents who are looking for this, I would like to entertain the idea of just having those discussions and see if we can consider the possibility of speed humps. And I think the humps are actually more ideal than the bumps. If you know, well, what's that? The bumps, yeah, now they are, because no one used to like those. They're very narrow, where the humps are a little more wider. If you've gone through Montclair, Nutley, Woodland Park, Parsippany, they're kind of long and they blend into the road. So that's something that we're going to talk about on Thursday. I've done some research and talked to some other council folks from various municipalities just to get their insights on as something that I'd like to present to this council and mayor to consider. Like I said, not every street, but I think there are some streets where we see a heavy number of cars that are coming through, and they're not doing 25, 30 miles per hour. We've seen them go 40, 45, and possibly 50 on some streets. So we've got to be mindful of that because it's all about the safety of the residents. And a lot of times on these streets, there's a number of kids that are outside playing. And so I just want to, at least explore that concept and share it with the council based on our meeting on Thursday.
Okay. Well, the council will look forward to that report when you have it together.
Thanks.
Councilman Leese?
This past week, I attended the Passaic County Senior Services meeting, as I've done for many years. Every Passaic County town or city has appointed a representative, as I am, to attend these meetings. We met at the Passaic County Department of Senior Services in Totowa, located on River Road. Information related to senior age people from the county and state was a big discussion, and then followed by discussions that is repeated later with township officials. I can easily state that our experiences are done very well in Little Falls, and we will continue to work or maintain our experiences for senior residents and to do it very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Cordonier?
Yes, thank you, Council President. We've wound down our portion of Neighbors to Neighbors, Neighbors Helping Neighbors from the Civic Center, where we ended up giving out a tremendous amount of cleaning products and household products to the families that were affected by our water event of August 11th. And we did so with the help of the CERTs and the emergency, the OEM from Little Falls. We've given just about everything out, and anything that was left, OEM is going to store and use for, hopefully, they won't have to use it for any kind of future events that we may have in the town. We also were able to help a lot of residents with some of the clothing that people were donated, and I would have to say people in the community and the surrounding communities were tremendously generous with their donations. Anything that was left, we were able to let the students and parents from OpGrad from Passaic Valley High School utilize, because they collect clothing, which they get money by poundage, which helps with their prom. So really everything was utilized. We do have one more event for families that were affected, and through a neighbor of Council President Scoba, we were put in contact with an organization that's from the garment industry called Delivering Good. And what it is, it's a charitable organization that many of the companies in the garment industry are part of, and they donate clothes or whatever even household goods, whatever they are manufacturing. It's not old goods, it's new, it's just part of their charity and donations. And we're organizing exactly what the residents that were affected needed, and the people from Delivering Good will be setting up something akin to a store, except they won't be paying for anything. They'll be able to come and take the things that they needed. So we're looking to have that happen sometime in the beginning of October.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for all your endeavors with the Neighbors to Neighbors program. Councilwoman Sieber.
Thank you. So now that school is back in session, the Municipal Alliance is meeting again. Again, that's a program that's aimed towards school-age children on drug and alcohol awareness. So we have set a date for our fall dance, which is November 2nd, and it will be taking place at our rec center. So more information and events to come up soon, so thank you.
Mayor, I have a question concerning the Peckman. I think it was Salmon Brothers who did the dredging. I don't know if that's the right word, dredging, or cleanup of the Peckman, but they went as far as the Main Street Bridge, I gather, because their equipment couldn't go under the Main Street Bridge, or they did, and they continued down?
They did. They continued the entire length of the river. I know Ms. O'Hare saw them just outside of her residence there at Tulip, so they were able to make it. They just accessed it from different points.
Okay, because I think we need to take a look. There's a few condos, I think there's 3 townhouses or condos. Unfortunately, the Peckman eroded some of that bank on that side, and I was taking a look at that today, so maybe we could take a look at that and see if we could shore up that area. I have a question, Phil. Do you know how many brooks and streams we have in our township?
The town has approximately anywhere between 20 and 25 brooks and ditches that we currently maintain throughout the township.
And where does all that water exit? Do you know where that water exit to?
Probably half of them go to the Peckman River, and the other half go to the Passaic River.
Okay. Does any other council members have any other topics for discussion? One other question, Mr. Simone. How's our new piece of equipment with that Toro mower? I think we have it in operation now.
The Toro mower's working quite well. We just got the trailer for it the end of last week, so we have to get it registered, and the Toro mower will now be brought out to the ball fields and the parks to start cutting that. And we're going to use the older mower to use on a lot of the bigger properties that we have down in the flood area now.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to open for public comment for agenda items only.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President.
The floor is open.
I think this is the happiest I've ever been up here. Dorothy O'Hare, Turnberry Road.
I'm sorry, the number on Turnberry?
89.
Thank you.
this is a long time coming, but it's really, really going to be so important because most of the big shoals that caused all the trouble have been removed by the Salmon Brothers or whoever they are. But with this machine, we'll be able to, DPW men will be able to get these shoals when they're small, and therefore they won't cause the problems, because a lot of these problems were caused by the tributaries, which the county is supposed to take care of. I've asked time and time again, and the county just refuses to do it, and it's their responsibility. I checked with Tom Slawinski, who's the project manager of the Peckman project, and I said, look, I want it in writing. I want to see where it says somewhere who does what to these tributaries. So he went to Dennis Contois, who is the head of that part that deals in the land use department. And he said that it's up to the state to make the rules, but it's up to the county and the municipality to do the actual work in the rivers and the streams. And the county has been getting away with murder. And unfortunately, we're paying the price for it. But once we get this machine, as I said, a municipality, and this is an amendment to the flood hazard rules, a municipality can remove one shoal without a permit. And I said, well, what if you have two shoals? And he said, there's no time limit between shoal 1 and shoal 2. So if you do have, which you would have, more than one shoal, you just finish one, you pick up the phone and you say, okay, I don't know the exact procedure, but I'm sure Phil will find that out. But that's the way it works. And I'd like to know, I have a question, the sediment piles that were removed and stored, will they be disposed of, or what?
Are you discussing the sediment piles? Which piles? The piles along the trail on the upper portion of Wilmore Road?
Anyone, any pile, because I live in the Tulip Meadows condominiums, and we had our yearly meeting last week, and all these questions came up. And the other one is, well, what are they going to do with those piles of sediment? Now, that we were supposed to get, if the flood board was doing the work, which we didn't do, okay, we were supposed to get a hold harmless agreement from Tulip Meadows and from any other place where you store this, and it's okay to do that. But we have a whole new board now, and they just wanted to know, are those mountains going to stay there, or? So I said I would.
You would ask, and you're asking.
These
That's fine.
problems.
So,
And thank you so much. You have no idea how much work this was. But when it turns out okay, then it's worth it. And Phil said that I could come down and polish it anytime I want. And that, right? Didn't you? Didn't you?
Phil?
No comment.
She can drive it.
so Mayor, are we going to have to live with those piles of sediment, or will they be taken away, or what is the story to those piles?
So Mr. Simone and I are both very well aware of the county's desire to have the sediment removed from the county property where we're storing some of it and throughout the town. But we are required, Mr. Simone can elaborate further, there is a time period in which we need to allow the sediment to remain there to essentially dry out, which is kind of ridiculous, that it's to de-water is the correct term, from a clean river with, rock, sand, and things of the sort. But I guess Mr. Simone can explain further that, but there is a period of time that they need to remain there before they are carted off.
So those piles have to, quote, dewater themselves. Of course, rocks do hold moisture. And then also I recognize that I drove my vehicle down, and there's quite a large pile down by the Peckman off of the Wilmore Road, which I don't recommend to residents to do because it's quite muddy down there. Is that pile also going to be sort of curtailed, or is that going to stay there and kind of become a ski slope for our children and residents, which would be?
Currently, right now, I'm working with Nick Ignoli,
Okay.
and we're working on trying to see where we can dispose of the material.
Thank you.
So I'll keep you informed.
Thank you. The floor is open.
I was waiting for you. Good evening, Arnold Karotkin, 181 Long Hill Road, Little Falls, New Jersey. Sort of pleased to see that the issue of parking was one of the items discussed. I have a concern in general about the process, about transparency, and about citizen involvement. So I have some questions. One, regarding the bond for the acquisition of property on Stanley Street, can you disclose which specific property is being considered for acquisition?
Yes. Mayor?
Sure. The property is located at 5658 Stanley Street.
Thank you. And the second, what is the total dollar amount of the proposed bond ordinance?
$375,000.
And lastly, so to date, the town's parking plan has been presented in a rather piecemeal fashion. So my question is there a perhaps written document, a written plan, regarding the acquisition of additional properties on Stanley Street, as well as any other properties within the town center?
The Township Master Plan refers to the need for additional downtown parking.
But it doesn't specify specific blocks. And when property is selected, why aren't residents informed who live in the surrounding community? My concern is you're going to build a parking lot, and when you purchase the property at 60 Stanley, for instance, if I was the house to the east of that property, one day I'm going to look out my western windows and see a parking lot. You know, those people, were they informed? Were they given the opportunity to come to the council to express their concern? Will it lower their property value? Will it increase the flow of traffic through the surrounding neighborhood? So my concern is, why couldn't there be a public hearing where this issue in terms of parking on Stanley Street could be discussed? Not only 60, but the one that you mentioned, and also to talk about acquiring part of PNC parking lot. It changes the complexion of a neighborhood. And I don't live in the neighborhood, but if I did, I would be very concerned and rather outraged that I wasn't informed. So can something be done in that manner?
Well, I believe that's a misconception of yours that the residents have not been informed. I have knocked on and spoken to almost every single resident along Stanley and Ridge, and I have discussed with them the acquisition of these properties. So to indicate that they have not been informed is inaccurate.
Mr. Mayor, I applaud you for your efforts in that behalf, but I've raised time and time again at the council meeting that while going door to door is terrific, but to have everyone in one place where everyone could hear the same answers, the same response. If you recall what happened to the residents on Donato Drive, you went door to door and so did other council members. How do I know you're telling me the same story that you're telling my next door neighbor? My point is to have full disclosure and transparency and citizen involvement. All residents should be invited to be at the same place, the same time, to hear all the questions and all the responses. I think that's owed to the residents of Little Falls. We may have a difference of strategy, but in terms of transparency and open government, I think that's essential, and I hope you'd consider that in the future. Thank you.
The floor is open.
Hi, Eva Visparis, 50 Lincoln Avenue. To piggyback off what Arnie said, you know, we have some questions, like you said that you went to some neighbors on Ridge and Stanley. I mean, I'm on the corner of Lincoln and Stanley. I was not notified. I saw it on the agenda. Just like the parking lot at the playground that you guys wanted to put in, I can see that from my bedroom window. I'll be able to
Excuse
see
me,
this.
but please don't address us as you guys.
I apologize. Yeah. So just as I can see the parking lot, or the playground at the school. I will also be able to see this new parking center, so, maybe perhaps more houses should have been knocked on, or as Mr. Krotkin said, a meeting for everyone to see, to hear and see what's going on. And so is there, has any plans been put into place besides the major plan that you have for the town center? For example, are you buying the property and then going to design it, or has it been designed and then you're going to purchase the property? Are the traffic patterns going to change in the town? Right now, it's a one-way. Ridge Road, is that going to change? Part of Stanley's a one-way. Will be signs like "Do not enter," so that cars cannot come over to Lincoln and First. The traffic won't flow into that part of the area. And is it going to be metered parking, free parking lot? These are all things that I, along with my neighbors, would be curious to know.
Does the council would like to address any of those topics? Mayor?
Sure. Unfortunately, with real estate, sometimes you don't have 6 months to decide whether or not moving forward with an acquisition is. So sometimes that just doesn't work with real estate. It has been discussed at length at meetings here, the intent to include additional downtown parking in that immediate area. We've talked and explored in public the possibilities of building garages to the tune of $50,000 per space, which is astronomical and likely unwarranted in that area of town. As far as notice to residents, again, the residents in the immediate area, anyone who is able to see those areas has certainly, again, I've discussed it with almost all of them, and this is something that most are in favor of and support of. It appears to be the case. There is, again, a master plan that the town has adopted a number of years, actually long before I was mayor, that indicate that there is a demand for downtown parking. And achieving that goal is something that I, along with this council, are attempting to do. And acquiring these properties is an easy and more feasible way to do that. It is immediately connected to our downtown area, and something that, again, I've brought to the attention of this governing body and this council and have mentioned here in the past.
Okay, but is there anything in writing, like a plan, like did an architect or an engineer draw anything out? Because I know since the town already owns one property, it has been part of your plan to make it. So is anything in writing that we're able to see?
No, because until we are able
diagrams?
to acquire all of the properties that may be needed, it's difficult to determine what the traffic route or the best, to maximize that area. It's difficult to determine until all of the properties are acquired.
How far into Stanley do you plan on going?
Personally, I think that this would be the last property that should be acquired. It's sort of a natural breakpoint. It's where Ridge somewhat intersects with Stanley or meets it perpendicular. So this seems to be the natural break line there.
It's the third one in?
Yes, correct. Well,
What?
it's the third property in, but the first one's a triplex, then there's a single family, and this is a two-family.
third property.
So third property, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Thank you. The floor is open.
Can I just make a
Go ahead, Councilwoman Coordinator.
Actually, I just wanted to respond to Mr. Karakin comment. So this is a workshop, and so this is a proposed bond ordinance for acquisition of Stanley Street. So that's what, correct me if I'm wrong, workshops is when we bring up topics to be discussed. We do discuss it, the council gets to hear about it, we get to ask questions. It's been on the agenda. The audience gets to ask questions. I'm not sure whether at this juncture a letter goes out to the residents in the area or if it's when we're actually going to vote on it, but I do know, as the mayor has stated, that he went door to door to the areas that would be most closely affected. So these council meetings are then able to be viewed on YouTube so that interested people can look at the meeting and the discussions that we had, people that live in the area. It'll come up again in another council meeting, and I think one more after that. So really, we are following the natural course of governing. So I just do take a little bit of exception that we're not being transparent about it. They're on the agendas. People could come up and talk about it. You can view the council meetings on YouTube, and you can also reach out to the mayor or any members of the council.
Personal privilege?
Absolutely, Mr. Crocken.
I appreciate Arnold Korotkin, 181 Long Hill Road. I appreciate your comments. And my concern is, how do we maximize citizen involvement? You know, when you look at this is a large crowd, but usually if there's 3 to 5 people, it's a lot. And what outreach do we do to put the onus on the residents to say it's on YouTube? You know, when you look at how many people view YouTube, are there 10 people who watch it on YouTube? That gives a count on the bottom. You know, how do we engage people? That's my concern. This is a town, I mean, you were elected, you represent all the people, and I hope people would show up. And I hope that whoever is in office takes it seriously to involve and engage people. And, you know, as the mayor mentioned a comment, he said he talked to people, and then when, in response to the other public comment, he said he went to most. He said most people agreed. Well, you know, I like to hear most of those people here saying, yes, we agree. I don't distrust the mayor's comment, but the point is to have everyone in one place at one time, similar to when you had the meeting about FEMA, about the flood. Everyone was in the same room, heard the same scenario, heard the questions that were asked, and heard the responses. So I'm urging you to not only be transparent, but to make efforts to engage people. That, you know, there may be a difference in philosophy, but my background was as a community organizer, and I look to having people show up, reaching out to people, and have people come, and I would hope my elected officials would engage that way too. Thank you.
Mr. Crocken, we definitely appreciate your comments, and we do, this governing body does understand that not every street has a paid lobbyist to watch every viewpoint that comes before this governing body. However, I think, and I know, I was with the mayor when we did that walk through that area. We do our best to make sure we could get the word out as legally as possible to people when issues come up that we feel are going to be impacting the residents in that area with the resources that we have. Nothing is done or undermining it here as we go through this process. But we take your comments seriously. We always are in discussion on how we could get more people in this room. We can't force people to come out and attend these meetings, as you know, but we will always continue to make sure we could get the communication of what this governing body is doing out to the public. Are there anyone else who would like to come up?
Council President, if I may. Yes. And to be clear, these meetings are the opportunity for people to voice their concerns. Proper notice is posted of all meeting agendas. To pass an ordinance, an item makes an agenda no less than 3 times in this municipality because of the way that we structure our workshops and regular meetings. Generally, at a workshop meeting such as this evening, and unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, because of the way that Rosh Hashanah fell this year, we do have back-to-back meetings in September rather than a 2-week span between them. But typically, no less than, including this one, no less than 3 meetings are held where an ordinance is discussed. First, when it's discussed at a workshop, and 2 subsequent meetings where the meeting is then introduced and following that, adopted. So there is certain opportunity for people to attend and to voice their concerns. Again, when I say I've spoken to most, there are times when I knock on a door when an individual is not home. I have knocked on all doors in that immediate area and only spoken to most because some individuals were not home. And again, I just wanted to point out the timing of this. There's nothing that we threw on this agenda last minute today addressing this, and there's no vote being sought by the council this evening to put this through in any expeditious fashion. So there is certainly proper notice given to everyone, not only in that area of town, but the entire town.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there anyone else who would like to approach the podium? Please state your name and address.
My name is Al Kawadi. I live at Morningside Circle.
Did you give the number?
45 Morningside Circle. I'm just curious, when you went door to door, the members that did you do that on your own time?
Mayor?
I guess theoretically, I'm never really on the town's time. I don't have a certain, 40-hour week that I have to put into the municipality, so yes.
Were you required by law to do that?
No, by no way in any fashion.
So for an agenda item that comes up, that will come up 2 more times, you personally took your own time to go door to door to speak to residents about something that's going to come before this council in an open meeting 2 more times. You haven't voted on anything tonight? You probably won't be voting on anything the next meeting?
And the next meeting, I will be asking that this council introduce the proposed ordinance.
And then it'll be voted on in a subsequent meeting?
Voted again subsequently, correct.
So the residents that you've spoken to already have 3 opportunities to come here to speak to you?
Correct.
Thank you.
Also, I do want to suggest that we don't live in castles. The residents that have bridges and, or what do they call those? Moats, with drawbridges. And any of the residents can contact us at any time through email, through seeing us in the streets. You don't have to come here to a meeting. If you don't feel like coming to the floor and you don't feel comfortable, you can reach out to us, and gladly we will spend time and talk to you about any discussions. Would anyone else like to come to the floor?
Dorothy O'Hare, 89 Turnberry Road. I forgot the last.
It's okay. Is this an agenda item?
Yeah. Yes. You are a stickler tonight, sir. Is there any possibility that this backhoe can be fast-tracked? I will walk it over to Woodland Park if you want me to. I will walk it to the county if you want me to. The sooner we get it.
I completely agree with you.
Good.
They are the
That's all
lead
I want.
agency. What I would recommend is call them every single day from here on out and ask them the status.
I'll tell you what, Mrs. O'Hare, we will arrange that you crack a bottle of champagne over it. Okay, save it. Save it. I know your maiden name is Jean Cola. Are you here to talk about anything? Just to listen? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry I don't know your marriage name. I'm sorry, also my condolences about your mom who passed away. She was a lovely lady. I knew her for many years because I worked on your father's Board of Education in Totowa. Anyone else would like to come to the floor? Seeing no one else come forward, can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
Council President?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
One final thing, I just wanted to wish a happy Yom Kippur to all of our Jewish brothers and sisters here in this municipality. A happy New Year to all of those of the Jewish faith.
Thank you, Mayor. Have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. This meeting is now closed.